You're inside of the Africa Forum. It's Running Africa, and my name is Kabo Ma'at-Kiru. And this morning, my broadcast assistant is Joy Morgan. We go through until 10 o'clock. That's when the Big A comes in with the Sunday sunshine. It is 12 minutes now after 6 o'clock. Thank you very much, Talia Powers. Walk good. It is Sunday, August 17, 2014. We're one Sunday, we're next Sunday away from our celebration of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. And it's really the climax of the tributes that IRFM have been paying to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey all year long. And come next week Sunday, it's the climax. We're meeting here in the courtyard of IRFM. As a matter of fact, we're meeting downtown Ocherias. We're meeting at the clock in Ocherias, and we're marching in the parade from Ocherias to Coconut Grove, which is where IRFM is situated. It's located. And we'll be marching with uniformed groups, children, the cadets, the marching bands. And part of that parade will include, or the aim is to deliver to IRFM the message carried in the ancient papyrus container straight from Kemet to IRFM to be read here on the grounds of IRFM. And the proceedings, the events, the day's events, of course, kicking off from 6 a.m. We go through until nighttime. We'll be here. So there's a lot. Our brother, Professor Obati Shaka, will be the guest speaker, actually coming into Jamaica later this week, and will deliver the keynote address right here on the grounds of IRFM. We'll broadcast live. We invite you to join us live, if you can, right here in the courtyard of IRFM, or join us at the beginning in the parade in Ocherias. There'll be many, many special guests, many, many activities on the grounds here in the courtyard as we pay tribute to IRFM. So our guest speaker this year, as you know, is civil rights activist, is a scholar, author, professor, and of course Professor Obati Shaka is Professor Emeritus at the San Francisco State University. Later on in the evening, after we've had the keynote address and the many, many other activities, of course, Lakatko will be joining us this year again, and so too the Carry Folk Singers, among many, many, many others. We'll talk about that as we go on. And then later on there'll be a big stage activity. But you'll hear much more about it as we go on. All right, you'll hear much more about it as we go on. So a lot to deal with, a lot to talk about. This morning is a working Sunday before that event. So as we go through the morning, we'll be talking to some of those persons who will be participating in the event. We'll be telling you what will be happening on the day, beginning at 6 a.m. So stay tuned. A lot to talk about in that regard. In relation, because we're talking about Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey and celebrating Marcus Garvey 128th anniversary of his birth. 28th? Yeah? 28th? Did we miss something? Is it 27th? All right, we'll double check on that. But either way, we're celebrating the anniversary of his birth. And in addition to that, we'll be talking about other issues this morning in this space. Some of the things that we want to talk about this morning include a continuation, if you will, because we have been working on and watching unfolding developments regarding China in Jamaica. And last week we talked about this great land grab and the drivers for this land grab. We talked about why we must be cognizant and aware of the fact that we are in an unfinished revolution, and that even as we go forward, we must look back, facing forward. We talked about the need for a direct response and a sustained response from African people wherever we are, and a strategy tool to stem the great land grab and this massive giveaway of African lands and Caribbean lands to multinational corporations, to governments, to foreign governments. And we've been talking for a few years now, at least, about China and Africa. One of the things that we've said, and I strongly believe this, I've been looking very, very closely at China in Africa. Very, very closely at China's engagement with Africa. Looking historically, looking at the recent history, looking at 1956, going through to 1978, 1976, 1978, looking at the 1980s. And I'm going to tell you why we're talking about those dates as we go along in the program this morning. But one thing we do know is that Angola features prominently in our understanding of how China is engaging with the African continent and the African diaspora. As a result of that, it is up to us to understand what has happened in Angola and what is happening in Angola, to better understand what will happen in Jamaica and what is happening in Jamaica, because the Angola model works very well for China's engagement with Africa. And so it is being replicated across the world, and we see that as we look at the African diaspora. We see that live and in action here in Jamaica with the Mount Rosa lands. And believe me, that is just a tip of the iceberg. We're talking also about Goat Islands. Yeah, we have a right to talk about Goat Islands, because this is not just an issue of environmental concern. This is a human rights issue. This is a civil rights issue. And you see, if we compartmentalize our response to China's engagement with Jamaica, with the Caribbean, as an environmental issue, then we would have failed. We are failing. And so for me, I think that there needs to be a more holistic response to this. Ultimately, it's an issue of land. It's an issue of natural resources, and it's not just an environmental issue. As a matter of fact, I dare to say that the environmental concern might be just a nano, a speck, a very, very small bit of the bigger problem that faces us with China's engagement with Jamaica. We can leverage. It's not impossible to do that. Angola, and let's go back to Angola. Angola is doing that very well. Of all the African countries, they are managing to do that. So when we talk about the Angola model, within that model is how China engages with the continent of Africa and the African diaspora, understanding that. But also within that model is a solution in terms of how we leverage our relationship with China. I don't know the extent to which this is being done in Jamaica. I don't think that we're even looking at it through these lenses, because we would not have the Mount Rasa situation. And Angola has learned that lesson. We can learn from Angola. So we're looking at China's engagement with the continent of Africa, also with Jamaica. We continue to look at that. We're also asking questions still about Jamaica's representative or Jamaica's representation at the Africa Union. We're very, very concerned that there might be a conflict of interest. And because we think that there is a conflict of interest, we think that we also have a responsibility to make an appeal to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, to the state, because you see, some things have to be handled at the state level. Naming a representative to the Africa Union happened at the state level, and the fixing that is going to have to happen at the state level, but we're going to have to be concerned enough to lobby from where we are as civil society for that change. It is something we need to do urgently. In the coming week, there will be a petition asking the Prime Minister and asking you for your signatures also to review this, to look again at this, and also to make the necessary changes. So we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to do. We're also looking seriously at how government is responding and how government is spending taxpayers' money. We're talking in particular in the recent weeks too. And I don't know how many of you saw the reality show on television, a reality show that was dubbed the Grand Gala. It's very much like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's very much like Beverly Hills Housewives or any other Atlanta, Real Housewives of Atlanta, or any one of those reality shows on television. On Independence Day, we saw the main players, we saw the actors, we saw the extent to which the leadership, those who are in leadership position, are vulgar in the way in which they spend taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. The motorcade and the grand announcement of the most honorables as they come through the tunnels of a national stadium was the most painful thing to watch as a Jamaican, as an African, as a black person, as a human being. Because in the midst of poverty, you know, when the announcement was made of the Minister of Youth and Culture, and you know, the stadium was hushed and we saw the motorcade coming through and we saw the high-end vehicle not made in Jamaica, because how dare any of the ministers of government drive into one of those little vehicles made in Jamaica on Independence Day through a tunnel with a motorcade. No, and this is a reality show. You have to keep up with the Hannahs and keep up with the Simpson Millers and keep up with the Desmond McKenzies. And so how dare me think that, you know, they could have made a difference by, on this 52nd anniversary of Jamaica's political independence, when they are saying to us, eat Jamaican, buy Jamaican, support Jamaica, that they come driving in. What kind of cars were those? Mercedes-Benz, were they? I don't even know. Audis? I don't know. But it's one of the high-end vehicles. How dare me think that they could have come into the tunnels without riders and all in one of those vehicles made in Jamaica, because we have vehicles made in Jamaica, you know, for independence celebration. And so they come dressed in their finest, and there's this big grand announcement, and they come out and they do the Kardashian waves, and 57 million and counting spent on Gallivant in the National Stadium. What is ironic about all of that, and is not even funny, is that the Minister of Culture is also the Minister of Youth. Children's homes are being closed. Young people are being crowded in a classroom, 50 and 60 and 40 to a classroom. You know, these are real issues. A large majority of our children are on the PATH program, which can hardly feed them for 3 days out of the week. Ask any teacher. But one of the pressing issues we have is an issue regarding classrooms in Jamaica. Classrooms in Jamaica. In that we hear time and time again that we do not have the funding to build extra classrooms. And, you know, if for some schools, all we need are 2 extra. The Taki High School, for example, just burned down. Lands to be acquired, and it seems as if that is not happening. We're begging and waiting for funding for that. But generally across Jamaica, 45 children packed into a classroom separated by blackboards, only chalkboards separate 40 children from another 40 children. So 80 to 100 children in one space, one teacher standing up shouting for an entire day, because if you check it, the playfield is in poor condition or it is absent. So when those 40 children are cramped into this space for hours on end, and then there is no place for children, and your children need to let out all of that energy, and they're eating the food given to them by wherever the food coming from. It's a lot of sugar, lots of sweet buns and so on, that they get, and milk and so on. So, you know, there's a lot of energy all stored up, all piled up. And then when you look around, there are no play fields, no outlet for these children to run and play and to spend that energy to come back to a classroom for the afternoon shift. And you see the person with the responsibility for these young people spending $57 million on a birthday anniversary, political anniversary for Jamaica. It makes you want to weep, and it tells you that we're in a very, very serious state. And this is not even about the individual who is now in the position. The portfolio is the Minister of Youth and Culture. Youth and Culture. And if you're going to spend 57 million in that portfolio in a time when Jamaica is at its lowest in terms of poverty, in terms of, and I should say highest, in terms of poverty, in terms of the ability to access equal education, the ability to learn in an environment that is conducive to learning, then it seems to me as if something is very, very, very wrong with our thinking. And so we're watching that, and it's enough to burden you down, but we're not going to be burdened down by this, because we see ourselves as part of a change, and this is where we have to go. This has to be our thinking, that we must be part of a change that we want to see. We can't just stand and pontificate and pound the pulpit about the issues affecting us from year to year, from day to day, from week to week. We have to be actively part of a change that we want to see. So there is that. The issue of the Africa Union is a burning issue. Some of the other issues that we're following and which we might not be able to deal with this morning include, of course, the genetically modified foods coming into Jamaica and also into the rest of the Caribbean and the continent of Africa. We're tying that also to the representation of Monsanto by Good Works International, and we're asking, is there a conflict of interest? We're looking at Codex. We're following that and looking very seriously at the extent to which our herbs are being criminalized and made illegal. To the family who lost their son and continue to lose their children, whether it is in police custody or otherwise, those families this morning, I say more strength, more power to you. Together, we're going to have to make a change together. It could be any one of us at any time who will be impacted because our nephew, our son, our brother, our husband is caught by the police smoking a ganja spliff and is locked up unceremoniously for that, even while the elites among us and it is no joke, even while the elites among us determine and meet and in the Jamaica Conference Center and in many other places to discuss what is going to happen and how they're going to be part of the ganja trade in Jamaica. It is simple, very, very simple. So you're inside of the Africa Forum, blazing new paths towards Africa's rendezvous with destiny. Bearing witness, demanding change. Redefining agendas for change and crafting at the same time. This agenda that we want to see. Providing practical solutions across a full range of Pan-African, global, and human rights issues. Breaking the cycle of mental control, the theme as we go through our celebration of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Breaking the cycle of mental control. Lots and lots to come inside of the program. By the way, you know, we 3 weeks ago, was it, that, or 2 weeks ago, that we were at Liberty Hall observing 100 years of Garveyism, looking at the state of the race. One of our panelists who we contacted very, very late in the day, because when I looked at the schedule that I had for the program, because it was a radio program, and we keep stressing this, that it was a radio program that we took to Liberty Hall, a discussion program. And when I looked at it, I realized we didn't have a representative from the 12 tribes of Israel, somebody who's actively on the executive. And so I called Patrick Beckford and asked him to be a part of the panel, and he said, yes, we worked it through for a long time. He wasn't quite comfortable with speaking on the panel on economics, but at the end of the day, explaining to him that this was just an introduction and that these are issues that we're going to be focusing on in depth as time goes on, he agreed to come on and he spoke on the panel. I know that when we spoke afterwards, that he wasn't too happy that he didn't get enough time to speak, and he told me that right up. We apologized and explained to him again what had happened, but I know that he was none too pleased that he didn't get enough time to talk there, and we understood that and invited him to be part of the in-studio discussions, which will come up later on in the year, to which he had agreed. But Patrick Beckford was saying all of that to say that he has died. He died on Wednesday, August 6th, and we're sending our condolences to his wife, his family, his children, members of the 12 tribes of Israel, his friends, and all those who knew him. Patrick Beckford, Issachar 1, a member of the executive body of the 12 tribes of Israel. We'll have more information later, because I think that his funeral will be today, later on today. And so I know that for many, you're hearing that he has passed at the same time that you're hearing that there will be a memorial service. But I know that also on Wednesday this week there'll be another gathering in his honor, which will be at the 12 Tribes of Israel HQ. But we'll talk about that as the information comes in. So once again, condolences to the family, to the 12 Tribes of Israel, to his wife and his immediate family. Issachar Beckford, always laughing, always pleasant, always teasing, and we're gonna miss him. And at the same time, we're asking you also to look to Angola in terms of understanding what's happening here in Jamaica. You know that in 1991, the then leader of China was Deng Xiaoping, and he made a commitment or recommitted himself to transforming China's economy. This is what it was all about, how to transform China's economy. So he coupled this commitment or this recommitment with an admonition on the best approach to foreign policy. I'm going to tell you what that is in a while, and then you'll understand a little bit more about how we got here in terms of China's engagement with the African continent. And it is something that we can look at, and it's not too late to emulate. By the way, you know, not much is being said about the young ladies and even from ourselves, but we have been on the social media on this a lot. The nearly 300 young girls who were made to disappear by Boko Haram and the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. Ooh, you know, some of those girls escaped, as you know, but many of them are still out there, and more have been kidnapped. That is the tragedy of it all. And you know the joke about all of this, and there is something really funny in the middle of all of this, which we are only laughing because we are afraid to cry, is that when France and the US and the UK got together with Nigeria on how to solve this, they signed off on all kinds of deals. And now you see the name of Nigeria on all the lists that Nigeria wasn't on before. List including genetically modified foods, list including AFRICOM, security in Africa. And it makes you wonder, because Nigeria had resisted AFRICOM, but somehow isn't really doing that anymore. After France and Britain and the US sat down with Nigeria after Boko Haram kidnapped 300 Nigerian girls, and the First Lady of the United States tweeted with the rest of us, and we continue to ask in this space. Another is about the treaty between the British and the Maroons, and we're asking if that treaty is still valid. Yeah. Is a treaty that was signed between the British and the Maroons, is that treaty still valid? I mean, all of it. The part regarding the land, the part regarding which side that some of our African brothers and sisters who consider themselves a race of people, because now maroon is to be a separate race, which don't make much sense, but this is how they would want us to see it. Because they say to be maroon is to be funded. And funding, as I said before, and as we've heard from Wallamu Marcus Messiah Garvey, is that which will break the back of Africa at some point. So that maroons are now a race of people in Jamaica and I suppose in the Caribbean. And initially, though, the Maroons, as they were misnamed by whoever misnamed that, whether it is a corruption of Cimarron or whether it is an English word which means that they were marooned, now consider themselves a special people. But initially, what it was is that Africans who, first of all, came with the Spaniards, not as slaves, not as enslaved Africans, who fought the traitor Juan de Bolas. You know that we learned about Juan de Bolas in school, and we did not learn much about Juan de Ceras. You think about it. We learned a lot about Juan de Bolas, and Juan de Bolas was a hero, but Juan de Bolas was a traitor. And so we have to begin to look again at our history and ask questions. We have to put on a different kind of lens and see everything from our perspective when we're reading the history that they write, that they're telling us about, that they want us to learn, because if it's good for them, it's bad for us. So that we learn about Juan de Bolas. You think about it, you ask your children, and children, you know you learn about Juan de Bolas in school. And Juan de Bolas, of course, is taught as a hero. The real hero was Juan de Ceras, who refused to bow to any colonizing factor or faction. So that the Africans who were here before Columbus, came before the Spaniards, came before Columbus, who were here, and then those who came with the Spaniards also. At the time, 1655, when the English defeated the Spaniards here in Jamaica and stole the land, the Spaniards had initially stolen the land from the Tainos, and we could go back and back and back, but let us hold that a little bit. Now, so that the war between Africans, yes, because there were those who were bought out by the British, and we are taught that those people are heroes. But the British basically bribed them to fight against the Africans here in Jamaica who refused to be enslaved under the British system. Those who refused to be enslaved under the British system, who were here long before the British came, included Juan de Ceras. Juan de Ceras fought like crazy along with many other Africans who refused to be enslaved under the British system. Juan de Bolas was a traitor, bought out by the British, fought with the British, and fought against Juan de Ceras and the other Africans. We learned in school that Juan de Bolas was a hero. Believe me. So when you're talking about Maroons, you're talking about as far back as then, these Africans who were never enslaved, our ancestors, these are Africans who were here and were never enslaved. They came before Columbus, as Professor Ivan Van Sertima research has shown, and some of them came with Columbus, but they weren't enslaved, and they were here. And there are some of us who identify as Juan de Ceras Africans, right here on the ground, never enslaved, and have no intention of being enslaved, and will continue to call to order the Juan de Bolases and the Juan de Bolas Maroons, those who sign treaties and those who hold up those treaties as if it's the best thing that has ever happened. So we're asking, is a treaty between the British and the Maroons still valid? Because there's a part in that treaty which says that the Maroons, people who identify themselves on the ground here in Jamaica as Maroons now and see themselves as a race of persons, are obligated to fight with the British against us. And every year they celebrate the treaty. And a lot of you go, and you must know how that go. Well, moving right along. All right, so we will continue to talk about that. But, all right, so what happened, another question, what happened to the heritage site and the lot earmarked at Pinnacle in Jamaica? How is that going? Because we were told that that is at least, there is a lot, and I know there are many, many questions regarding this, in terms of the amount of land to be made available and so on. But what about the committee, the commission that is in place, the committee to look at this? There is a committee in Jamaica for everything. How many committees do we have? Can somebody help me with that? How many committees do we have now? As a pin dropper, you can't find it, a committee is formed. You know, they say a camel, look at the camel, they say a camel is a horse designed by a committee. A camel is a horse designed by a committee. If you want to not make any headway, if you want to stall a process, if you want to hijack a process, if you want to ensure that people are neutralized, form a committee and put your people on the committee and see what happens. Because when you form a committee, what you're in fact doing is saying to the persons looking on, oh yeah, we're going to deal with this. But then, and you're also saying we're going to have dialogue, we're going to be talking about this. But then you put your people on the committee and you tell them what their mandate is, different from what the mandate is on the paper. And so, the committees will run forever and ever and ever. As we see, there's a committee here that seems to be running in a very, very serious way, going on, sitting for Pinnacle, and we're not hearing much. It seems to me as if the only time you hear about the committee is when the media call the committee. It's when the media call the committee. So what's happening with this committee on Pinnacle? What's happening with this committee on Pinnacle is a question we're asking. And how the heritage land go? We understand that the courthouse is finished in St. Thomas. And the National Heritage Trust says that the statue of Mr. Bagan, that is at the back of the National Heritage Trust, where we heard on the news, one member of the National Heritage Trust said that the statue of Mr. Bagan will be replaced. I think if you don't watch them, they'll try and replace that in National Heroes Week, I bet you anything. So I don't know what the people of St. Thomas are going to do about that. But I know that the people of St. Thomas, in a way, have been co-opted too. Because, and I'm not saying that you know that you have been co-opted, but it's happening and you probably don't realize. Look around you. Look around. Asking about the Confucius Institute at UA. Yeah, there's a Confucius Institute. Leave it. Where, even as we celebrate Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey, talking about the possibility and the need to have an institute, whether it's at UWI or NCU or wherever, but we say UWI too, right where the Confucius Institute is, a Garvey Institute or an African Institute for that matter. And there are conversations about that. I know that some of those discussions have gone really, really far, but bombed somewhere along the line, and we're not quite sure why. But while there's a Confucius Institute, we saw that, and I didn't see this, people are telling me that when the Mount Rasa leg of a highway was being opened, the North Coast Highway, that Jamaican people, African Jamaican people, all dressed in Chinese garb. And there's a Confucius Institute. As soon start speaking Confucian. Okay, Mandarin. So, it is what it is. Commission of Inquiry is continuing into the assassination of Walter Rodney. We will keep you updated on that, even as we pay attention to the militarization of Africa and the Caribbean waters, looking at the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative and Africa. And this became the mantra. It became the theme. It became the very word and the very thought by which all Chinese lived and acted, and I think even till today. But here we go. So this is what became a motto for China when China decided that they were about and needed to and had the wherewithal to, in terms of the commitment from the people, from leaders, even though later on we saw that struggle for leadership in the different provinces. China said, Deng Xiaoping commitment and admonition was observe calmly, secure our position. Observe calmly, secure our position. Hide our capabilities and bide our time. Be good at maintaining a low profile. Never claim leadership. Recommitting himself to transforming China's economy. This was part of a commitment and admonition on the best approach to foreign policy. Observe calmly, secure our position, hide our capabilities, and bide our time. Be good at maintaining a low profile. Never claim leadership. No joke. Lots of us are up in arms about Jamaica's engagement with China. We continue to say that China in Africa gives us a very good roadmap as to the pitfalls, the successes, the gains, and how we can leverage. So when we talk about Africa rising, when we talk about the African Renaissance, understanding China's place in all of that and how Africans, ordinary Africans, are impacted by this idea of Africa rising or not impacted can give us a brilliant and a very good idea as to what our own engagement with China will result in. One thing we do know is that Chinese businesses have been on an acquisition spree in the continent of Africa, and it's an acquisition spree for resources. This is across the continent of Africa. And this has been happening not just the other day, you know, it's 1996 is the date that we are earmarking when this acquisition spree for the continent of Africa really took root and really began. And Chris Alden, in his own book, China and Africa, also identifies that date, and many others, 1996. Now, in an exchange for their country's riches, this is where the betrayal of Africa by African leaders, and we're seeing it in the African diaspora, is something that we have to pay attention to. Because in exchange for their country's riches, African politicians have acquired dozens of parliament buildings. Presidential palaces are being built. Sports stadia or stadiums, accepted word now, stadiums. And these, if you go across the continent of Africa, are all built virtually overnight by Chinese construction companies. And mark you, they're using Chinese labor, numbered in the hundreds and sometimes in the thousands. And in a lot of these cases, African unemployed Africans are ignored. Another thing we're seeing in Africa, as we talk about understanding China and Africa, is that we're seeing cheaper Chinese-produced imports, such as, and you know textile is a big thing on the continent of Africa. If you've ever been to Africa, you know that. A big business on the continent of Africa is manufacturing textile. And now the textile industry in the entire West Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa, is being threatened seriously with cheaper Chinese-produced imports, African textile and clothing manufacturers. And these manufacturers were the backbone of the African economies, providing employment for so many. Well, what's happening with them now? They are shedding jobs by the tens of thousands across the continent of China's engagement with Africa is more complex than that. Of course it is a complex matter. We know it's a complex matter because we know that even while we see parliament buildings, the Africa Union, for example, the headquarters of the Africa Union in Ethiopia was built by China. So we know that it's a complex issue. They're building parliament buildings, of course. They're building stadiums. And while they're doing that, China, and you know, it's harsh to say this, but we need to call a spade a spade. It is what it is. China, while it's building stadiums, building parliament buildings, you know, providing presidential palaces and all kinds of, you know, government. China prefers to deal government to government, and we'll talk about that. But they're stripping Africa of its resources in a serious way. And this is benefiting mainly just the few fabulously wealthy leaders on the continent of Africa. Ordinary Africans are being left with a barren heritage. It is no joke. We say it's complex, we know it's complex. The Chinese construction firms that are building the palaces and the parliament buildings and so on, they're also building dozens of hospitals. And they're building schools in Africa. And this is where now we talk about leveraging and how we leverage. Because Angola understands this very well. Hundreds of miles of tarmac and railway tracks in Angola, in Sudan and Ethiopia. We're seeing that. You know, we talk about information and he who controls information, what you control in this age. We see the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and we look at what we're hearing. Do we know? Have we heard? Have we seen the images of hundreds of thousands of people marching against Israel's attack on Palestine? It's happening, but you're hardly seeing those images. You know why? Because those who control the satellite, those who control the spectrum, control the information, control what you see. And we're having a challenge on the continent of Africa because at the same time that we're seeing the tarmacs being built on the railroads and the hospitals and the schools, China's communication satellites are beaming information from China's perspective, which is really what I've found out so far. It's much better than what we get from the European perspective or the American perspective. But we're seeing this. All of this information being beamed into the continent, where China's mobile telephone networks spreading connectivity throughout the continent of Africa. We see that happening too. And so that you have to talk about the power balance. It's a power balance. What is Africa getting out of this? How is Africa leveraging? And who is gaining? The most terrible thing that's happening on the continent of Africa that we have to pay some serious attention to, because we too are seeing a very similar thing on the ground here, is China's retail traders with their low-cost imported goods, their low-cost imported clothes, their low-cost imported watches, their low-cost imported radios and shoes and so on. See, the thing about this is that it's an enigma because, or a conundrum, because for the first time, because of a level of poverty that these African leaders have dragged the African nations into, for the first time we're seeing that Africans on the continent, because of the retail traders in China, are now being able to afford for the first time new shoes and new radio and new clothes and you name it, new watches. And so you're going to Africa now and you're looking at China everywhere, similar to what you saw the other day with the opening of the Mount Rosa Highway. And I talked about, everybody dressed in, my understanding, I didn't see them in Chinese outfits. And I talked about, that we soon start talking Confucian or Mandarin with the Confucius Institute. And my producer, Joy Morgan, is reminding me that the Prime Minister did bow and say, "Sheshe, sheshe, sheshe." Somebody should teach a Prime Minister to say, "Asante sana." Asante sana means thank you very much. It's an African language. It is our job to critically examine China's emerging relationship with Jamaica and the Africa and the African diaspora also, but Jamaica in particular. We must examine this and we must look at the implications for us. Jamaica, Africa, the African diaspora. It's our job to do so. We're critics, not criminals. Since we're asking, and this is what everybody who critically looking at China and China's engagement with Africa, with Latin America, with the African diaspora, but particularly with Africa and the African diaspora, is China a competitor? Is China a partner? Is China a colonizer? Are we seeing China and Jamaica as a development partner? Are we seeing China and Jamaica as an economic partner? Or is China and Jamaica a new colonizer? And also in Africa, China and Africa, China's engagement with the African diaspora has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with ideological considerations, as some people will argue. This emerging relationship that we see is singularly focused on acquiring resources and on commercial opportunities. So since we know that Africa and the African diaspora figure prominently in China's global ambitions, then once again we stress that we must leverage this relationship. We can't just be giving away and giving away and giving away in our greed. What we see happening on the continent of Africa is enough to tell us that there are mistakes to be made in this process, and the mistakes are costly, and some of them non-reversible. And we talked last week about the non-reversible corporatization of African agriculture with the land, and we're talking about Caribbean agriculture, Jamaican agriculture, and Jamaican land, with the land being given away to multinational corporations and foreign governments. Short-sightedness. We must look at Angola. Angola is a symbol of Africa's importance to China. The Angola model, we see it being operationalized in all African and African diaspora countries with which China is engaged. We're seeing that, including Jamaica. Mount Rasa is an example. Angola is managing to leverage the relationship. Angola is China's largest foreign supplier of oil, passing Saudi Arabia in round about 2006. So China is building Angola's infrastructure. It's building highways, railways, government building, stadiums. Angola is paying for all of this with oil, with land, with other minerals and natural resources. And I'm going to spend much more time on this because it's something that we have been looking at for a very long time, and from time to time we raise in this forum, and we'll do that once we're through with our tributes to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey later on. But just to say that we're looking at China's current strategy of engaging developing countries, because this engagement includes locking in tightly the resources of those countries that China engaging with. Now, this is serious. It is the Angola model. It's working very well on the continent of Africa, working just as well here. Now, because we know that China does this, lock in the resources of a country. And they're doing this, through government-to-government agreements. It's at that level that is happening, and this is why it's such a dangerous situation. They are securing sources of energy and other critical resources to maintain their own roaring pace of the development of the Chinese economy. And that's fine. Ain't nothing wrong with that. How we leverage that, though? How are we to understand that? As we speak, over 40% of all of China's oil imports are sourced from Africa. And we see China now expanding, purchasing significant stakes in Nigeria's Delta region. It's no wonder that President Barack Obama called African leaders to a U.S.-Africa summit last week. We're going to look at the U.S.-Africa summit another time, but that is a comedy of errors and focus mainly on security, interestingly enough. So once again, America can only think in terms of security. America has to flex its military might and muscle in the face of China's invasion of the continent of Africa and the Caribbean, so that they have already secured militarily the Caribbean through the CBSI, and they're going through the continent of Africa with AFRICOM doing that. At the end of the day, the only people who are left out of this are the African people and the Caribbean people, the African-Caribbean people, and that is no joke. That is no joke. So this is where we have some serious some serious soul-searching reflection, critical reflection, and strategizing to do in terms of our response to China's engagement with Jamaica, China's engagement with the Caribbean, and of course China's engagement with the continent of Africa. Because, you know, interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw last week's Sunday's Observer. The cartoon in last week's Sunday Observer should cause every Pan-African, every African, every Rastafarian, every black person to curl up and be with anger and write to the Observer. Because in the midst of this talk on Ebola, what the Observer did was to use the image of a Rastafarian holding a placard, a sign that says "Back to Africa postponed," and that Rastafarian, the image of that Rastafarian standing on the map of Jamaica, and across the water, standing on the map of Africa, is a Grim Reaper with, you know, sword and everything, dressed all in black, and Ebola marked on that. You know, it's the Jamaica Observer thumbing its nose at the ideology and the ideal of Africans in Jamaica wanting to reconnect with our homeland, which is Africa. And the Jamaica Observer really needs to apologize for this, you know, and to withdraw it. But I suppose not many of us raised our voices, not enough of us raised our voices against this, because we're too concerned with the bread and butter issues to look at these small little things that the private sector does to African Jamaicans and masses of the African Jamaicans in this country. But we have to stand guard. We have to be soldiers on the battlefield. We can't just be reactive. We have to stand guard. If it were Israel, because we saw that too, there's a war going on in Israel, and we didn't see a cartoon like that about any Jew wanting to return to Israel. We never see no cartoon like that. They wouldn't dare do that, make joke of the Jews' desire to return to the state of Israel. They would not dare. Why do it then with the African ideal and the African ideology to return to the motherland, to return to that place from which we were so brutally taken? Is the Jamaica Observer and Clovis, the cartoon, so insensitive? Go and look it up, African people. Go and look it up. Write to the Observer. You need to do that. Ask them to withdraw that. Because this whole thing of Ebola, we're looking at that too. You know, they're making a big stink of Ebola. Malaria is a disease of poverty. Ebola is a disease of poverty. Ebola is not a new disease. Ebola first occurred in the 1970s in Germany. In Germany. It's not an African disease, right? There's no such thing as an African disease. They're diseases of poverty. And so the response that we see, and the Jamaican media is so hypocritical in even the way we cover issues of health. The politics of health is very, very important to developing countries. And Jamaican media, Jamaican journalists, my own colleagues in the media, must begin to critically examine the politics of disease and the politics of health and ask questions. And the kind of questions that we're asking, I see poor Marie, well, not poor, but I see Dr. Marianne Bullock-Decas and the Minister of Health at pains to respond to questions about Ebola. Ebola is no threat to America. Ebola is no threat to Jamaica. It is simple. Ebola is no threat to America. It's not. You know, the fact that we saw two doctors being taken from the United States of America, from Africa to the United States of America. The fact that we were able to see this on our television screens mean that it was staged. It was staged. For whatever reason, and we're looking at the politics of disease now, for whatever reason, the United States called every single television station to set up cameras when this plane was coming in, to see, for the world to see images of you know, doctors in their spacesuits and you know, doctors who are treating and doctors who are ill in their spacesuits being taken into the United States of America with this war, this terrible disease. That was staged. There's a reason for that, because they don't let us see anything that they don't want us to see. So first of all, I want to know why I saw that. What's the thinking behind me seeing that? Malaria kills a child. Every 30 seconds, a child dies from malaria. It is contagious too. Malaria kills 1 million people per year. 1 million, and these people are traveling across borders just the same. They're coming from the same places where Ebola has been identified. Why is there not this big scare about malaria? And they have treatment for Ebola, you know. They do. Not to mention that America is just on our doorstep. And the CDC, the centers at the WHO, the CDC and the WHO tell us that every year 36 to 40,000 Americans die from the flu virus. 36 to 40,000 Americans die from the flu virus. Influenza flu, which is one of the most contagious viruses out there. And every year we have 36 to 40,000 deaths. And we don't see anybody giving any global warning against traveling to America. Africa is a massive continent. There are just about 900 deaths on the continent of Africa of Ebola so far. And they've been talking about Ebola. Remember, in June, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, we heard about the first cases of Ebola. So almost 5 months, and we have 900 deaths. And remember, the majority of those deaths are in two countries, in Guinea and in Sierra Leone. And remember, we've been hearing about Ebola in Guinea since February. And so far, they've had, 300 deaths? So how are they stemming this vicious, violent, contagious disease in Guinea? That only 300 have died so far, since we've heard this. So we must ask ourselves these questions. There's something that's not right. Very fishy. Very, very fishy. Something not right. And it might have to do with a summit in the U.S. Africa summit. It might have to do with China and Africa. Have you heard from China? You know what China said? The U.S. says that one of the worst places where Ebola is happening right now is Liberia. You know, China is in Liberia in big time. As a matter of fact, China just signed some wicked deals with Liberia, taking away the land, literally. And China, what they have said is that they are not leaving. They're not going anywhere. And they have also put out a release to say their doctors are not leaving Africa in no panic. That's what China says. They are not leaving Africa. They are not going anywhere. And their doctors are not leaving. But we black people talking about back to Africa postponed, talking about we're not going to Africa. Investment in Sudan's oil industry from 1996 onwards. Big projects by China. China now has a 40% share of the Sudanese government's Greater Nile Petroleum Corporation. China has some massive investments in multinationals in Nigeria, buying multinationals in Nigeria and Angola and Gabon. China is purchasing shares in Angola's natural gas fields. China links all investments to tie-in projects and provides lower labor costs through less costly managerial staff. They're involved in commercial logging in Guinea and Liberia. This is the two places where they say Ebola is really, really bad. China is involved in commercial logging in Guinea and Liberia. And they say they're not leaving. They're doing their work. They're involved in cotton and sisal plantation agriculture in Tanzania. They're in Botswana. They're in Zambia. They're in Kenya. They're in Djibouti. They're in Nigeria. They're not going anywhere. Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in the world. So far, Nigeria has identified 2 confirmed cases of Ebola and a possible 5. One of the most populous countries in the world. Why are they scaring us about Ebola? And why don't they do something about malaria?
People tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory.
do understand that quite a few of the UNI children will be marching this year as usual. We'll get the numbers, but we do know that hundreds of us will be marching from downtown Ocherias in that parade, delivering the message of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey to the IRFM courtyard to be read live on air. All of that will be live on air, by the way. And we're also streaming live. For those of you who are on the internet at irfm.net, welcome to you. We're streaming live on the internet this Sunday, and that you can pick that up. You can just, log on to irfm.net and pick up a stream of most, if not the entire day, activities. We'll be taking as many of the events as possible. We'll definitely be streaming the guest speaker live and many more of the performances. By the way, a new thing that we're also adding this year is that for the first time on the stage, we're going to have different artists, we're going to have performers, we're going to have academics, we're going to have, community people reading the poetry. Poets also reading the poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. How many people do we have marching in the parade, Joy? No, not just the cadets. How many, 500? Hundreds. Well, the cadets are in the house, but we're going to have poetry on stage, as I told you before, and the poetry will be the poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Mutabaruka will be reading poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey, and also those who will be reading the poetry, if I could just get to that bit of paper. All right, but many, and I'll give you that in a little while, will be reading poetry, because Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey was a poet, as you know, lots and lots of poems. Concrete Asphalt, Raja Asphalt here at IRFM will be reading poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Kishima Francis here at IRFM. Rasta Kura will be reading poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. So there's going to be that segment on stage. Brother Jinsu will be reading the poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. So that's going to be something to listen to behold, and to be a part of here on the grounds. Hanifa, our sister Hanifa, will be reading poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Also performing on the day as usual, Lakatko dancers. We're going to be speaking with Antoinette Steins, because I am very, very happy, very pleased to announce that my sister, High Priestess Antoinette Steins, will be dancing this year on stage at the tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey, along with Lakatko dancers. And also the Kari folk singers, they'll be live here in the yard. Rasaivai and the Nyabingi drummers, and we understand that the Nyabingi drums, how many Nyabingi drums will be there? 50 and more, and then the Pafai and Vinaya Bingi drummers also. So it's going to be an afternoon, a morning of activities, but also of celebrations and tribute. My sister Cherry Natural performing on stage her own poetry, but also in that segment where we're going to be doing the poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey, we'll also be reading poetry from Mwalimu. Isn't that something to look forward to? Up you mighty race, huh? So the Tivoli dancers will be part of a parade. The National Inter-School Brigade will be part of a parade. The UNIA children will be part of, Garvey children will be part of the parade from downtown Kingston. So it's going to be a big deal. We're joined in the studio right now by members of the National Inter-School Brigade, and Mr. Ray Hamilton is... Ray?
Yes.
Where are you? I can't see you, Ray. All right, okay. This thing is blocking me right here. All right, well, good to have you. As usual, thanks so much for coming in. And I noticed that everybody's uniformed this morning. What's up?
We are here,
yes.
Andrea. We are doing well, thanks.
Yes. Okay, can we have some, and of course, Ray, you are one of the, give me your exact title again.
My rank, I'm a Deputy Brigade Commander, and I'm the Divisional Commander for St. Anne Division.
Right, and you have with you in the studio this morning?
Deputy Commander, Mr. Steele. He's in charge of the Kingston St. Andrew Division.
Mr. Steele?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir. You're in charge of Kingston and St. Andrew?
Yes, madam.
Well, thank you. Did you come in last night or this morning?
Last night, madam.
Right, don't come in, madam. Well, that's cool coming from you. That's all right. Okay, and who else do we have, Ray?
Jarvis Clark, he's head instructor for St. Andrew Division.
Okay, Jarvis, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Oh, it's you? Okay. Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Not bad, madam.
Look, you're outside all morning, Ray. And who else do we
have Sergeant Major Daniel Ferron from the Brownstone High School.
Okay, from Brownstone High. Wow, Daniel Ferron?
Good morning.
Right. What are you studying at Brownstone High?
Yes.
What class are you in now at Brownstone High?
Grade 10. Going to
in grade 10. Okay, what subjects are you doing?
I'm doing geography.
Okay.
Mathematics, English, Indian science.
All right.
Human and social biology.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. And who else?
And Tolo is instructor in training on this side. He's.
How are you doing, Mr. Tolo?
Morning, madam. I'm okay.
Good morning, sir. All right. So you're an instructor in training. What does that mean?
Currently we are at training to become an instructor so we can train cadets.
Okay, all right. And it's an inter-school brigade. So, Ray, tell me once again, because I know that you've been doing great work. So we talk to you, every year about some of the works you've been doing and some of the gains that you're making in the schools, the various schools across Jamaica. Tell me how you function, the National Inter-Schools Brigade.
All right, we operate in schools, so we have units in different high schools, primary and junior high schools, and primary schools across the country. We would have instructors going to the schools to do training, let's say once per week, and then we have group training, combined training on Saturdays at different places across the country as well. Mm-hmm. And cadet is mainly about instilling discipline in the members. Mm-hmm. So we for the most part assist the schools in
behavioral infraction,
getting the children to behave.
Mm-hmm. I know, and I know you say that simply, but honestly, and we have spoken to some of the cadets that you've carried here from time to time who have really changed their life, turned over their life in such drastic and dramatic way for the better, that this is something commendable that is being done by the National Inter-Schools Brigade. And I know, Ray, we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot about, there's a young lady, for example, who says she was literally on the edge in terms of behavior, but that it is the National Inter-Schools Brigade that literally saved her through the work that you are doing. Tell us about some of those students. We got some students at one of our high schools who were on the list to be expelled, and so the cadet program was a last resort basically for them. Mm-hmm. And the initial group was 13, and of the 13 only 2 got expelled, and these 2 refused to submit to the training of the cadet program. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the other 11 went through, completed the high school. A few of them even got promotions, prefects and class monitors and stuff like that. So we have touch some lives. Mm-hmm. And I really must commend you on that. In Kingston, remind me of your name.
Steele, madam.
Steve?
Yes, madam. Steele.
Steele. Yes, right. In Kingston, tell us about the gains that you're making in Kingston.
Okay, well, in the Kingston and St. Andrew area of the National Inter-Schools Brigade, we have various schools that we administer a program in. But over a period of time, we understand that teachers as well as students see cadets in the school as disciplinarians, which had caused us, as the directors, to actually go to the table and create another sub-body in order to administer to assist with behavioral infractions in school. Mm-hmm. And this is where the National Inter-Schools Brigade came up with the program BIDS. BIDS is a behavioral intervention and disciplinary support program. And this is where now, excuse me, this is where we go in the schools, we get the students that would have normally been expelled or suspended from school. We get them on our program. and we administer the intervention to them, then send them back to school. After we send them back to school, then they are monitored for another extended week in school. And for that period, over that period, we have instructors who are assigned to students to keep them on par. Because sometimes you want to know that because a student may know that, okay, the school is sending him here for a week, then the behavior will change just for that particular week. So we don't want it to be that it's a 1 week thing just because they want to go back to school. We do it continuously. We maintain the relationship with them as well as parents. Because a lot of times the infraction or the behavior of a child is not basically just upon his or her own standing. Sometimes it is coming from the pressure at home, as also the pressure within the school.
And you are young men who have you're so disciplined yourselves that you're involved in something like this, and we don't hear enough about this kind of work that is taking place in the school. How would you advise parents in terms of getting in touch with you, in terms of having, if they notice that there are behavioral problems and they're listening to this and they're saying, well, it might be a good idea to encourage my child to be part of the interschools, the cadet?
Well, say a parent want to get their child involved in the program. We have numbers. They can contact us on our numbers, or they can visit us on Facebook. It's a National Interschools Brigade movement. That's on Facebook, and there we have a section on our fan page that there's an application that they can fill out, and then because we peruse the page from time to time, so it's a constant watch.
You want to give out your number too?
Sure, no problem.
Go ahead.
It's 899-9999.
899-9999. Okay. All nines apart from the first one, which is 8.
Which is 8.
Right. All right, so that's brilliant. All right, so at Brownstown High School, how did you, and your name again?
Daniel Ferran.
Danny, how did you, Ferran, how did you become a part of a National Interschools Brigade?
I was in class one day and I heard that cadet is going to be in the school. So I was in primary school, I was a scout, and in the future I want to become a soldier. So hearing that, I was so excited, so I decided to join. It was Neil Anthony Brown who came up with some other instructors, and I joined that cadet that day. Take home the application form and fill it out with my mother and take it back in, and I start training.
And are you loving it? Do you think that this is a brilliant choice that you made?
Yes.
And would you encourage other young people to? Yes. Why?
Because the program mold young people to be a better person in life. It changed their whole life it's like it put you on a straight path.
And this is different from the cadet in schools, right? This is different from a cadet in schools. This is, you have the that is connected to the
the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force.
Right.
is a different organization.
Right. So this is a National Interschools Brigade
movement.
And movement. And then one of the things that I see occurring and reoccurring every time we talk is this emphasis not just on the child who is going to be in the school environment, but also connecting that to the home environment, to the community.
Well. Yes, ma'am.
That is brilliant. And you are the young people who go out and
yes,
actively, Ray?
Yes.
Once again, that is brilliant.
Right.
It is brilliant. I must commend you on it. I'm sorry we don't have much time. You know what we're going to do is have an entire program on this again to talk about the interschools brigade. But we wanted to look ahead now to Sunday morning, where the St. Anne division, do we call it that? Division?
Yes.
Right, have been very, very good over the years in being part and parcel of a tribute to Marcus Garvey, Morlamu Marcus Garvey, on his birthday. And now we're doing a more combined thing. Steel?
Yes, madam.
Right? Now we're having more cadets this year coming in from Kingston and so on.
Well, we are trying our best. So it's not yet been confirmed as to the Kingston set coming down, but we are trying to organize that as we speak.
All right. So how many cadets you're trying to organize that at the moment? Yes, brilliant. So how many cadets will be in the parade on Sunday? so far?
Well, we're asked to go after 100. But when we so far we have approximately 40 persons, and then we're trying to get additional from the Kingston division to participate. But we're still trying at this moment.
All right. Well, it is brilliant. 40 confirmed already, so we love that. The fact that, these young men and women, because there are women there too, yes. Will be part of this parade. Ray, explain to us what is going to happen on Sunday morning.
All right. Repeating what we did the past 2 years, we do the road march, and here we're starting from the clock in Otrius this time again. Mm-hmm. So we do the road march led by the marching band, and we get on campus at the RFM compound, and then we'll do a display, a drill display. A display is usually short, maybe 5 or so minutes, but it show off some drill precision movements to the beat of a popular rhythm, most likely, and drums, and sometimes we use even contemporary music that other persons would know.
Yes.
And the cadets then move at the rhythm. Most times the displays are without commands, so they work on a time. What do you call it? A choreographed, synchronized movements that make formations and change directions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then the cadets also will be carrying the message of Molamu Marcus Messiah Garvey to Area FM.
Right.
So they'll be marching.
They're marching with that as well. Right.
In the thing. All right. So what will each person inside here will be part of the parade? Steel.
Yes, madam.
Right. Right. So tell me what each of you will be doing in the parade. What will be your responsibilities?
All right, Madam Jarvis back again.
Yeah, we're not hearing you too well, Jarvis. Yes.
All right, I'll be the parade commander.
Yes.
Over the years, last 2 years, I'm parade commander for just in charge of getting the parade up from down by the square to the IRFM grounds. In generally speaking, I'm the person who leads the parade up.
Right, and so you're the person who gives verbal commands to.
Yes, madam.
All right, and you know that we always ask you to give some of those verbal commands on air. just so that person understand when you say the verbal commands. But, okay, we cannot escape it, right?
Just say
no,
right turn.
Wait turn it over to Ferran. But you Ferran, you do it. It's fine for you to do it, not Ferran, but he's going to do it too, right? Yes.
All right. I would like to say, parade. That is to get the parade up to attention. Alert.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 parts to a command: the introduction, the cautionary, and the execution. So the introduction would be parade. Parade. That's the cautionary. And the execution would be parade. Shan. So everybody would be at attention now, ready for the command by the right or by the left, where the parade is just from. We will say by the right, quick march, and the band will start playing at that time.
All right, so that was easy, right, Farwan? All right, so you, as usual, will be the parade commander.
Yes, madam.
Right. Okay. What will be the functions of the other persons in the studio? Farwan, what will you be doing in the parade?
Right marker.
What that means?
Just to keep the parade in dressing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And still?
I would just be supervising as an officer on the parade.
Yes,
just to supervise them.
Well, that is brilliant. Ray?
I normally drive behind.
I know. I know, Ray. Which is good too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, and cadet in training, Tolo?
Yeah, I'll be next to Ferran.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is in marching in line. Okay. All right. It sounds good, and this is going to be happening. And so you'll be there from minutes before 6, just getting ready because you're leading the parade back into IRFM. Ray, any final words that we need to know? You're all dressed in your uniforms today. Can you explain to me what you're wearing and what they represent?
All right. So this is one of our uniforms. All right.
Yes.
I have on a national flag on my shirt. My badge of rank is a crown and a star. it shows the position I hold.
Yes. Okay. And the color is black, and the epaulets are burgundy.
Yeah, the epaulets are burgundy.
Burgundy, yeah. And you have stars on that way.
On the burgundy top. Yes.
Oh, okay. What does stars signify?
Is it just the badge of rank? The star
okay.
on the crown.
Okay. All right, Steve.
I'm wearing the same. It's a crown and a pip. Star, it's pip.
It's pip,
yeah,
okay.
It's a star reverse here.
Yes.
And that symbolizes the rank of a deputy brigade commander.
Okay. And Farron?
I'm wearing a denim, a black denim with my beret.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The edges.
Yes, right. And it is a burgundy beret too?
Burgundy beret. And a lanyard.
What's that called?
A lanyard.
Okay, so that kind of whoop thing over your shoulder.
Yeah,
a lanyard. Part of a uniform.
Yeah.
Jarvis, leave him alone. What you wearing?
All right. Well, I'm just in a ceremonial dress.
Yes.
Basically, it's just to highlight my division's name and my rank.
And what's the division name?
Center Division.
Okay.
All right. The other thing, I wear 2 stars as a superintendent on both shoulder strap. Yeah, that's my rank basically.
All right, and I suppose we'll be seeing much more of that on Sunday when this is an important part of the tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey each year, because this is a team. This is the group that carries the message of Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey in the ancient papyrus container from downtown Outreas to the courtyard of IRFM to be read, and usually that is done by somebody on the grounds here at IRFM. This year the message will be read by the mayor of St. Anne's Bay, so you'll be delivering the message to the mayor of St. Anne's Bay this year to be read. The parade, of course, inclusive of the marching bands, the UNIA children, and the National Interschools Brigade. Thank you very much. Yes, Ray.
Mr. Steele gave the number, but the fact that he is based in Kingston, let me also add my number for the St. Anne Division. It's 356-2682.
356-2682.
Right.
And you'll hear much more about the National Interschools Brigade. We have to invite them again in the studio. Good morning to you, Dr. Sir Cooks. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio. You don't have a microphone yet, but the carriage is here and the ambulance is here. And Dr. Cooks tell us every year that, we're getting a helicopter. We're getting a helicopter this year? So we must behave myself. All right. So thank you very much. Anybody want to say hi to quickly before we go?
Sure. My wife and my boys should be up listening. So let me first start there. Audrey, Joshua, Christian, good morning. My friends and family say greetings. Chief Commander in Kingston and the cadets and camp. Hope you are listening. Have a great day. We'll see you later on.
Okay, Steve?
Chief Brigade Commander in Kingston, listening in along with other members, participants of the camp, families and friends.
Sean?
I'd like to say a pleasant morning to my mother, Lorraine Lawrence, and my family in Sturgestown, and my father living in Clarendon, Noel Ferron, and to the campers, good morning. Thank you.
Okay, Jarvis?
Good morning. I have a long list,
We don't have time. But as a commanding officer, you know that you have to shorten the list.
Yes,
madam, go right ahead.
I'd like to say good morning to my mom, George Miller Hudson, over there in St. Thomas, grandma, grandfather, daddy, everybody. Good morning, and to my friends and family over here in St. Anne and in St. Thomas and all across the island. The persons in camp, Mr. Clark is here, Large to be exact. He's saying good morning to you over here in camp.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Jarvis. Tolo?
Well, I want to say good morning and big up my parents. That is my mother, Navlet Hines, my father, Baldwin Tolo, and my family and friends at home and my cousins.
All right. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all next week, Sunday, in the square of Otrius at the clock as we march with and parade with the message of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey to be read here in the courtyard. Thank you very much. Mr. Ray Hamilton, as usual, we really appreciate him coming in and assisting us too with the parade from downtown Otrius to the courtyard of IRFM. Quick break. Dr. Crooks is in the house.
I'm going to Miss Hazel shop. I flock everybody. I flock to get them Royals wheat crackers. You know, eat your eat. I'm going to taste it now. I buy your one.
Homemade Royals wheat crackers. Hungry for more? The time by Homemade Royals wheat crackers is...
Studio, my very good friend, a friend to IRFM and especially friend to this program, is Professor Dr. Sir R.P.G. Crooks. He's a consultant specialist, integrated medicine. He's Professor of Applied and Complementary Medicine, Podiatric Surgery, Surgical Chiropody, Acupuncture, which is Chinese medicine, psychohypnotherapy, nutritional medicine, osteopathic, chiropractic medicine. I hope I'm pronouncing these words right, Dr. Crooks.
Go ahead.
Okay, backbone disorders, that is. General complementary medicine, and he's also director of Crooks Medical Center. Which one did I not pronounce right?
No, man, you're fine, Andrew.
I did pretty well?
Yes.
Congratulations to me. All right. Dr. Crooks, once again, welcome to the forum. Welcome to IRFM.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for, over the years, being a family member. You know, family members are that, we call on you when we want.
At the drop of a hat, yes.
And you're always there. So thank you very much for that. So once again, tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey and the Crooks Medical Center, an integral part of the team. You're functioning, and you do this every year from 6 a.m. until we're done.
When you say when.
Yes, so thank you very much for that. All right, so explain to me now what would be, how you're going to function this year, because you're also going to be there at the parade. What's the main function?
The main function is to make sure that the event is injury-free and free of any emergency, any medical emergencies. But should they arise, then my team should be there to assist in the best way possible. It's an international event, so we have to have our standards at international level. So we'll have a full team out with nurses, first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, physician on call, the whole 9 yards, a full setup for what we call a field emergency setup, to make sure that an event like this that is so internationally renowned is covered to the same standards.
And thank you very much for that, because it's really a big production, and you do, and I just need my listeners to know this, that you do this as a literally charity. You do this free of cost. You do this as part of your own corporate social responsibility to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey and to the community.
Yes.
How do you do this every year like that? I say thank you. No thoughts, I'm just saying thanks, but I still have to ask a question.
God is good all the time. But
yes.
Separate and apart from that, Marcus Garvey is from my own parish center and here. And a give back like this is a no-brainer. You're supposed to be able to give back to your community. Certainly when I set up the ambulance service, while it's a private ambulance service, it's also / a community ambulance service. So whatever is on the ground and we can help, then we make sure that we do that. The service goes back to if there's an accident on the street, that we respond in terms of the police, just to make sure that we can at least maintain a good quality of life in the aftermath of an accident. The same hold for if there's a fire emergency, when we tow behind the fire trucks as well, just to make sure, and they call us just to make sure that we can render the medical assistance as the need arises.
Wow, we're really, really grateful for the work that you're doing and continue to do here in Jamaica. But just quickly, Dr. Crooks, and we talk to you all the time, but and especially on this occasion, and just now I introduced you as somebody who's very involved in medicine, not just the orthodox medicine, but other kinds.
That's correct.
So a quick little about your background in medicine.
Well, My introduction to medicine was years ago when my elder brother died because of a tonsillectomy, and that moved me into a totally different ambit. Separate and apart from that, I had, while going to school in St. Anne's Bay, serious foot problems. Hence, I ended up into podiatry and chiropody foot care. But I was convinced that there were other ways to do treatment. I myself suffered from severe tonsillitis while growing up, and it had me absent from school many days. But because my brother had died from the surgery, I decided I wasn't going that way. So my mom and dad, who was involved in home nursing, did a lot of home remedies, and that piqued my curiosity into the alternative care. I followed suit with that after doing podiatry, with Far East studies in homeopathy and the same in London, and I usually refer to myself as the blackest Chinese man because I did Chinese medicine. But the combination of therapies help to be able to treat the patient in a holistic way. And thank God, with the spiritual insight he has given me, it has helped me tremendously in, carrying health to a different paradigm.
Well, and just so our listeners know, you have also studied all over the world. You were very, very humble with that, but you've had studied medicine, in many, many different parts of the world, and we'll talk about that when we interview you again one-on-one. But what would you want the general public coming out on Sunday to be mindful of, especially in this heat, as we march in the parade and even as we're here for the entire day on Sunday, August 17th?
The big word is hydration. We need to keep ourselves properly hydrated, and water intake at periodic intervals is very important. Certainly for the parade, those who are going to be marching, walking, running, it is important for them to have water, and I implore the station to make sure we have water stops so that the people can pick up water on the way to be able to, hydrate themselves. There are other fluids that we can be used to, but I'll hold off on that. The water is also very good, and be able to pace yourself is important. And while we celebrate too, the same is true, and just to make sure that we eat on time and eat a reasonable meal on time. The meal is dependent on what you want it to be. Certainly some of us are not meat eaters, but that doesn't mean that you won't get the good food from just having vegetables and in whatever form. But just make sure that you're eating properly for that day. Enjoy yourself, be on your high, but just make sure the high is complemented with food and water.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much, Professor Crooks, for coming in as usual, and then for being there with the IRFM team along the way as we pay tribute to Morlemo Marcus Messiah Garvey. We couldn't do it without you. Thank
you. And I just want to add, I have to make sure that it's okay, because once it's an international event, as the chairman for the resort board, I have to make sure that all the visitors and all the locals enjoy themselves in a good fashion. So we're pulling out the stops in that regard. So to make sure that Sunday is a good celebration, and one that has international tourist oomph and spunk.
Thank you very much, Professor Crooks, part of the team, part of the family here at IRFM. It couldn't be otherwise. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
See you next week, Sunday.
Yes.
There'll be ambulances on the ground here.
There'll be ambulances on the ground. We have just acquired a multi-bed ambulance, which is made from the coaster from the Toyota line. It has 4 beds inside there. Well, three beds and 2 other spaces for beds. But it's a full mobile emergency unit, so it can do standbys right there and do everything on the ground like a field emergency unit. Separate and apart from that, we'll have 2 other ambulances on standby because it's massive.
Yes.
Certainly Ministry of Health and the International Health Organization have particular standards for that, and we have to maintain that. We'll have a tent too for people who are just recovering from perhaps a heat stroke, but anything else outside of that, we shift them off to the local hospital.
All right, I hope we don't have to go there, but just in case, we're very, very prepared. Thank you very much, Professor Crooks, for coming in.
Yes, and I'd just like to big up my mom and dad, Major and Mrs. Crooks, and my daughter Cece, and of course the medical team that will be here on the ground. Just want to tell them, just keep the
this morning. All right, going to the phone lines now, where the artistic director, choreographer, tutor, examiner, dancer, founder of Lakatko, a United Caribbean Dance Force, Yoruba High Priestess, Dr. Lantonette Steins.
Hello, Alafia, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. Listen man, I got the hairs literally stand up on my hand when Joy told me that you were going to dance.
Yes, but of course, you know that you have a relationship with Ira FM. How you mean?
Yes. Oh man, thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, tell me, Lantonette, what Lakatko will be doing on Sunday. And thank you very much, by the way, for always being a part of our tribute to Marcus Garvey.
This is a commitment we make with a lot of love. I must tell you that. It's a lot of love that you come with every time.
Yes.
And we had to think hard because you have this, the theme is breaking the cycle of mental control.
Yes.
Which is a very important theme. Because in my work, I speak about decolonizing the mind,
yes,
which is very much like Wasi Yongo's decolonizing the body. I'm really standing on his shoulder.
Yes.
And so we are doing a piece that is going to include 96 Degrees in the Shade from Third World's album.
Yes.
And we are doing a piece that we call it Tribute. And the music is a South African version of Amazing Grace. And it speaks to mental slavery.
Yes.
So I had to find something that goes with the concept of the day, the theme of the day, and then of course we have to excite up the audience with a Ghanaian piece that's called Passion.
Wow.
So we're coming to excite up the place.
Wow. Yes. Looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yes. And how many persons in Lakatko, how many persons will be performing on Sunday?
Well, 4 drummers and about 8-9 dancers.
Wow. Always beautiful, always brilliant on stage.
And we're coming in with our pretty costumes and with all our beautiful girls and dancers. So that's because whenever Ira FM is a lover of the arts. Did you know that?
Oh.
Ira FM is a lover of culture and arts. If you never know, let me tell you. So therefore, I'm outside here, can't tell you, so it must be so.
Yes.
So when we get there, we have to bring culture and arts at its best for your event.
Thank you very much, Lantonette. I introduced you earlier as, among many other things, Yoruba priestess, which is not something that we introduce you as very often. Can you talk to us about that quickly, that aspect of you?
Well, I've been initiated for over 32 years, so I'm referred to as an Iyalosha.
Yes.
And people get very confused when they hear Yoruba.
Yes.
But Yoruba is a religion that knows that there is one divine energy, one God, the same God for everybody. But the difference is that I have to really give respect to every single thing that God has put here. So I can't go outside and pick a mango without thanking the tree. I have to give respect to the river that God has given me, to the ocean that God has given me. And my spirituality is not a Sunday morning go to church, but a every day. Every single morning, every single day of my life, there has to be a moment of giving thanks. And being grateful.
And this is why I asked, because I know that you bring that also to Lakatko United Caribbean Dance Force, the spirituality that is in that group is something
well, Lakatko is, my dancers are told it's first spirit, then mind and body. You know, I just launched a book called Soul Casings.
No?
Yes, I just launched, it was launched in London at King's College and again at Philip Sherlock.
Yes.
And why I call it Soul Casings is because, you know, old time people say, me, I'm going to lick you in your soul case. Because your body is only the casing of your soul.
Yes.
And so the spirit comes first, then the mind, then the body dances. And when you put that all together, you can touch a person's soul in the audience, you know?
Yes.
So that spirituality has to be. And I did a piece recently called Abuzuke. Abuzuke, it means the past is your strength. And the whole piece was about the story of the Orisha Oshun, who God had sent to the earth with 10 other Orishas, and they decided that, oh, she's a woman, we don't need her, and the whole earth went unbalanced because man and woman is very much needed for the balance of everything.
Of course, and you know that is also one of the underlying themes running through our tribute in terms of the balance of African male-female relationships.
Oh, I have to think through what I bring, man. I have to make sure because I didn't know that. I'm thanking you for telling me that. But this whole ballet was about the fact that is together, man and woman together can make everything balanced, you know, with respect for each other.
Yes.
We have to respect each other on a certain at a certain height. And what I find that it is lacking a lot is that respect for each other. So I did a whole ballet on it.
Yes, we're so looking forward to seeing you to participating in the presentation.
But you know, I send the dancers every year, but I never come. But I come in this year.
Yes, and that is why I said
I might get up and dance too. I'm joking. Yeah. This year I'm coming on the bus to the dancers.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Dr. Lanton Stans. We have just a minute to go, but I just want to remind our listeners quickly that our relationship at Lanton Steins, Andrew Williams, Kaboom at Kiru, and IRFM goes back from 1990.
You can't tell them to age me.
1990. You know that you facilitated one of the first interviews. The very first interview on this program was facilitated by you.
Oh, Lord, I didn't know. All I know is that I was so excited to hear a radio station that did love reggae music.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, my sister, Dr. Lanton Stein. See you on Sunday.
Yes.
All right, okay.
Thanks again for having me.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dr. Lanton Steins, artistic director, choreographer, tutor, examiner, dancer, and founder of La Cadco, a United Caribbean dance force. She's also, as you heard, Yoruba priestess, has been for over 2 decades. Thank you so much. The tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey happens next week, Sunday, right here in the courtyard of IRI FM. And our very special guest speaker is civil rights activist, scholar, author, Professor Emeritus at San Francisco State University. Professor Obati Shaka is our very special guest speaker. And the theme this year, breaking the cycle of mental control, as we celebrate Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. IRFM's local and international headlines coming up right now. You're inside of the Africa Forum, running African time on IRFM 8:45.
This is news from IRI FM, Jamaica's non-aligned news voice.
Good morning. I am Nikita Sterling with the local and international headlines. Police have charged a man for the stabbing death of his elder brother during a domestic dispute at their home in Haddington District, Hanover. The accused, 27-year-old laborer Jerome Tingling, also called Ratty, was charged with murder on the weekend. The charge stems from the death of 37-year-old Romain Malcolm, otherwise called Ricky. Reports are that last Sunday, August 3, the brothers were at home when an argument reportedly developed. It's alleged that Tingling used a knife to stab Malcolm in the upper body. Malcolm died at hospital. Following the incident, Tingling fled the community. He was held the following day. He is booked to appear in the Lucy RM Court on Tuesday, August 12. A St. Catherine-based Justice of the Peace is to be tried in November for his alleged involvement in fraudulent activities. Roy Stevenson is charged with making a false declaration. When the matter was mentioned on Friday, Stevenson's lawyer Lancelot Clark Jr. successfully applied for an amendment to his client's bail conditions. The JP is accused of signing documentation on behalf of a woman he did not know to secure bail for an accused person. He was charged after the accused failed to reappear in court when the surety was held by bailiffs from St. Catherine. It was revealed that the identification of a dead person and a fictitious land title were used to secure the bail for the accused person. Police investigations led to the arrest and charge of the JP. He is to be tried on November 9 in the Spanish Town RM Court. The Four Parts Police seized 2 firearms and 3 rounds of ammunition in Swansea, Clarendon on Friday, August 8. Information received is that about 6:30 a.m., police responded to reports that a man was terrorizing residents in the community. Upon their arrival, the man was apprehended and 2 homemade firearms along with 3 9mm rounds were found on his person. He was taken into custody. His identity is being withheld pending further investigations. And in news overseas, talks in Cairo aimed at securing a fresh ceasefire in Gaza are under renewed strain, with both sides in the conflict issuing warnings. Palestinian negotiators said they would leave on Sunday if Israel did not attend without preconditions. Israel says it will not negotiate on the fire, warning its military campaign will take time. However, reports say the Palestinians are considering a new 72-hour truce to pave the way for talks. Finally, 48 people were killed when a small passenger plane crashed in the west of the Iranian capital, Tehran. According to Iranian state TV, the aircraft, which was heading to the eastern city of Tabas, went down in a residential area. Iran's aviation authority said the passengers included 5 children. Those were the local and international headlines. News next at 11:45. You can go online to irfm.net to view some of the stories. Like us on facebook.com/IRFM News. Follow us on Twitter at IRFM_news. From the IRFM Newsroom, I'm Nikita Sterling.
That was news from IRFM, Jamaica's non-aligned news voice.
Thank you very much, Nikita Sterling, with the local and international headlines. IRFM's Sunday Sports Diary is up right after this.
Let's go! If you want that flavor feeling, the drinks for you, it's so appealing. Tropical rhythms, it's the real deal. With vitamin C and it's Jamaican. Grace tropical rhythms from the fun of life.
The time is...
Now 10 minutes going up to 9 o'clock. Roger Haspel is standing by with IRFM's Sunday Sports Diary.
This one is the Garvey chant. And in part of it says, "Up, you mighty race." Those words he used and deals with his case. You can accomplish what you will from time immemorial, and we can still. African fundamentalism is a must. You know, in Jah we put our trust. You say, with it put fi we raise fuss. We love you like how we love food, Marcus.
Okay, we love it too. All right, that's great. So you're performing on Sunday. For persons who've never really seen you perform. So you're going to change and all them something, don't it?
Yes.
I know you, man. Will you have your drums on stage too?
Yeah.
I told them I know you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, man. Really looking forward to.
Right. So will you be in the parade from downtown, or you going to be in the courtyard?
I don't know. I mean, you might want to assign me somewhere, but I mean, you know, it's my off weekend still in us, but I'll make it back.
You know, that's a private joke between me and him. Listen, hold that down.
Yeah, I'll make it back in time.
You'll make it back on Saturday?
Yes, like last year, remember?
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking especially to hear Professor Obati Shaka.
Yeah,
speak.
man, for real.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's always good to have some other enlightened views on the subject, you know, coming our way. Yeah.
And I want to say thanks to the sponsors, you know, Roger, because it's interesting over the years that we've been doing this, and we've been doing it for many years, that sponsors are few and far between. So people don't necessarily sponsor cultural events or events to do with Molemu, Marcus Messiah, Garvey, and so on. So, and it is true, it's not a joke. Yeah, you're not getting it. So that you have to make a commitment. Yeah. So as an organization, you have to make a commitment that this is something that has to be done, that needs to be done in terms of recognizing somebody like Molemu, Marcus Messiah, Garvey. And IRFM does very well at ensuring that happens.
Definitely. Definitely so much.
And Mr. Selwyn Graham, by the way, Graham Wholesale in Highgate, one of the few, if not the only black-owned establishment that is left standing between Port Mary and Highgate. One of a few, because that
in this country.
Remember, we're seeing it as they are seeing it in Africa. China's retail traders have come in. They have descended, and how are they doing it? How do they manage to drive other shop owners, supermarket owners, business owners out of how does it work? I know it sounds simple, but it's a simple question.
How the Chinese come and
I understand the competition, the low cost, and so on, and then you as somebody who's buying sometimes your products take much more of a producer. Government is not subsidizing it. So obviously it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But wow.
Remember they have the economic might, and they have the template from the Berlin conference. So.
They have a template?
Yes. So it kind of easy, I was talking to somebody.
Are you worried about it? Is it something when we say worried, I mean like it's not afraid, but isn't it something
well, of course, but at the same time, you just know that, all right, we still maybe have another couple centuries to go before we take full control again. I mean, that's the only way I can see it. I mean,
that's a sad commentary,
Yeah, I know, but maybe is the immediate generation after this will change things. How it's supposed to go.
Wow. How do they do that? Because China has locked in, both on the continent of Africa, and is locking in Jamaica and the continent of Africa, our natural resources in term through government to government deals. That means that they are properly locked in.
And long-term agreements in terms of lease and so on. Yeah. I'm serious long term too.
Non-reversible, these things are going to be easily reversed,
No, because
and you're doing it at the government level. That means you're signing off with the government. Oh, goodness gracious, it's scary.
Yeah.
It is scary.
And then, we always ridicule ourselves, because, I mean, in terms of we as African people and black people and so on, I mean, we see these things happen and we come down ourselves and, we... Even I say a cartoon in the paper recently, and how it was construed.
Last week Sunday.
Yeah, and there's one again today.
You lie. In the same paper?
In the
Observer?
I think so. There's one again today.
Joey, do you have a copy of the Observer? Because I'm not going to go online. Can you?
There's another ridicule again today.
Are you serious?
Yeah, in terms of it. Yeah, of our own self. And that is part of the thing too. That is a fundamental part of it.
But there was no outcry as such. I know I took to the social media about it, and I know a few others, and there was a letter written to the editor of the Observer.
Yes, I saw it,
by one person that I retweeted yesterday and posted on Facebook. That's the only letter that I saw. And then I've been on the social media and I mentioned it this morning, because the cartoon we're talking about is the one from last week Sunday, is the image of a Rastafarian with a sign, like a placard sign, saying "Back to Africa postponed," and he's standing on the map of Jamaica. And then there's water, the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean dividing the Caribbean and Africa. And then the Grim Reaper is standing on Africa, dressed in black and with this the scythe and Ebola marked in him. And I'm saying that you do that with people, with black people, with the masses of the people who are powerless in so many ways, and not understanding that we have power in numbers. But you would not do that with Israel.
No.
Because remember, the conflict in Israel is really bad now, and the Jews who are seeking to return to Israel are in a very similar position. So why not do a similar cartoon of a Jew holding a placard saying "Back to Israel, postpone," and then the Grim Reaper standing up in the Gaza and showing everybody dead?
Yes.
They wouldn't do that, you know.
No.
You know why? Because of the power of the Jews. You wouldn't dare. The Observer is a global newspaper. The Observer operates out of a global perspective, considering, you know, the hotels and everything. It's a conglomerate. So you would not dare to upset the Jews. But in operating in a majority black African country where so many persons are reconnecting in their minds, if not physically, with the continent of Africa, you would do this.
Yes, and that just form part of the whole ridicule of ourselves and the continued, you know, the continued foolishness where we continue to keep down our own selves, the crab in the barrel mentality, all of these things, and you know, it's just a cycle.
Yeah,
it's just a cycle, and when you have certain power, you just take over from the master and get worse. You know.
It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, Clovis. I don't know much about the Observer. I mean, we're all in the media.
Well, the Observer would say the views are not necessarily those of the Observer. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, no. In newspaper publishing, as far as I know, whatever is published in the newspaper, whether it says not necessarily those of the Observer or not, is published by the publication, and the cartoon is an editorial.
Yes.
Is a picture editorial. The Observer cannot distance itself from the cartoon.
Yeah, it's just the continued ridicule of ourselves, which powerless masses, as I say. I mean, and we're talking about 500 years of underdevelopment, which remnants so much more in our minds even now. You know, these are the things that arise out of underdevelopment.
And I agree with you. And that cartoon came out, the one ridiculing Rastafarians in Jamaica and the ideal of reconnecting with the homeland. That came out on Sunday, which was a day before Emancipation Day, and just a day before Independence, Political Independence Day, and just a few days after Emancipation Day. So it is the most insensitive thing that has been done by the private sector to the masses of Jamaican people. And whether we wanted to react to it, yes or no, it's up to us. But no wonder them keep taking step away, because you know, you can't do something like that and get away with it. If you had done this to the homosexuals in Jamaica, you couldn't get away with it. But you see, you can't do it with the masses of the African people and get away with it.
Yes, for real.
I'm just saying, you know.
Because I mean, even where that topic is concerned, if you go in a public place and express love between a man and a woman, it is seen as homophobic. No. You can imagine. I'm
not even imagining it. I'm just saying that, you know, you must respect the insensitivity of this thing. It drives me up the wall, literally, to know that you can do that and get away with it. And the one for today, this one is the one with Stephen Golding?
Yes.
So this is showing Stephen Golding with UNIA on his T-shirt, and there's somebody in a group of shacks, and written on the shacks, there's a woman sitting on one of the shack step, and she have a baby in her hand, and Stephen is passing by, and she stretched out her hand. On our fair shack it marked vote PNP, and the other shack said vote JLP. And she said, Mr. Golding, they get money now. And Stephen says, Garvey, what a shame for know, so we come from slave quarters to ghettos and garrisons. Well, I don't know. What is your beef with it?
Me? My beef with that? The guy very well know about that. That's why he did what he did. But to me, it is another ridicule.
Yeah, I get the point you're making, is that there are many ways to represent or particular situations.
Yes.
Some of these things have been drawn by black people, blacker than me, you know, blacker than the console. But that is why the idea of breaking the cycle of mental control is so important.
It's a serious thing, man.
Because mental control is evident in what we're seeing in some of the cartoons.
Definitely. And why, you know? And then when you talk sometimes amongst some people, you know what I mean, you have to just sometimes just back away and just move away, you know, because, you know, you hold on to your point and you know that sometimes some of these people, they are just enslaved.
Yeah.
Even worse than the shackle. You know,
that is it. So the physical shackle is one thing, and that is why we say there's an unfinished revolution, because the part of the first revolution, the revolutionary process was to get rid of the physical shackles, the physical chains, and the second phase really should be in terms of the process, the getting rid of the mental shackles, breaking the cycle of mental control. The institutions are still owned by the colonial masters. The land, crown land, it is crown land, you know, that was given to the Chinese, the Mount Rasta land, you know. I'm sure, I beg you to think that's crown land.
1,200 acres, eh?
1,200 acres. So we have to revisit, and that is maybe one of the reasons why you're not hearing a lot of conversation apart from the same people like Bert Samuels, the same quarters, regarding addressing the situation of the monarchy, getting rid of the monarchy as head of state of Jamaica, because I see this idea of just pushing everything to crown. This is crown land, this is this, and so on. It's easier for the so-called leaders to then strip the country bare of what belongs to so-called crown. You understand?
Yes.
Once the people understand that it belongs to them, that it belongs to we, is a whole other thing, you know. But for now, crown land is what it is. It's not. It don't belong to we. According to the thinking.
Yeah, the concerted effort is that we must not know, so we people will continue in ignorance.
True.
We keep the people in continued ignorance. Crown should be over there, and you should be here. Not, well, it should be the other way around, where it should be the people's land.
It's a people's land. That's the thing. It's a people's land that you're calling crown land.
Yeah.
That, you know, give
the
as
indigenous
gift.
People. Yeah.
Give as gift to China. Because that's basically what it is. It's a gift to China.
Well,
crown lands. so 1,000. But remember that this is the least of it. This is what has now happened. This is what now materialized. But we don't. There are many more of these kinds of deals to be operationalized. I bet you anything. And I'm not even talking about what the one over there name that the environmentalists talking about, Goat Island.
Oh. Down south, yes.
Yeah. Goat Island, I don't know how much bigger is Hong Kong than Goat Island. Maybe a little bit bigger, you know. Hong Kong, how many million people?
I don't know, maybe around 2.
China can put a lot of billion people, put a little piece of land, you know.
Look at Singapore. Look at Singapore. Singapore, I think, is like Ochi.
You see, they know, so you can't stay there. This is joke. This is serious business. So the 1,200 acres, you know, I mean, that is enough. Goat Island, that is enough.
Yes.
You know, they know how to put up millions of people looking at Hong Kong.
That's a serious thing.
On small pieces of land.
Yeah, Singapore and Hong Kong are 2 perfect examples.
Right.
Yeah. And look how far Singapore is from China.
So, I don't know.
Same region, but
I don't know.
Long distance.
But you know that, as I mentioned, Hong Kong, the research is showing that criminal gangs, that is organized criminal gangs from Hong Kong, have made their way into Africa on the back of the doors of Africa being open.
That would be, and that is one of the fearful things of all of these things. Those people are coming on the back.
Yes. And this is research, this is documented information. This is not, I'm not pulling this out of no hat. It's not rumor. It is documented information that the criminal gangs, organized criminal gangs from Hong Kong, have made their way into the continent of Africa. And they are using some of these companies as fronts for larger criminal activities, including illegal trade in timber, illegal trade in animal products and parts like the elephant tusks, etc., etc. So it's big business
Yes.
back in China and so on. But most of these organized criminal gangs are originating from Hong Kong. And if you know anything about organized crime in Hong Kong, then it is something that we also need to pay attention.
And then we yourself continue to ridicule a man like Mr. Mugabe.
Yes, of course. Although he has also opened the door to China big time. Africa is doing that. And I think, if Africa, I'm saying that there's nothing wrong in China's engagement with Africa or even with Jamaica by itself, but that we have to leverage that relationship and we have to determine at some point whether we are whether China is a competitor, whether China is a partner, or whether China is a new colonizer.
Yes.
And we have to determine that, even while we're leveraging the relationship. Because China as a competitor
hard to determine sometimes, but sometimes you know what is what,
Yes. Please call us Mr. Selwyn Graham, because you must be the only black man standing in Highgate, St. Mary, maybe in most of St. Mary, because from Port Mary all the way to Highgate and down to Richmond and so on, we're noticing that most of the black-owned businesses are no longer standing. Well, he's one of the sponsors of a Garvey event, and we really thank him for doing that, because, as one of the only black business that remains there. But we're trying to get you, Mr. Selwyn Graham. We can't get you on the phone. We'd really like to have a conversation with you. But we want to hear from across Jamaica.
Yeah.
From, whether they can text me, tweet me, write me, or something. Andrea.williams@irfm.net is the email. Twitter, it's Kabu Ma'at, Kabumaat. Kabu Ma'at Keru, that is at Kabu Ma'at Keru. And then also Facebook, just look for me, Kabu Ma'at Keru Williams, because I want to know what's happening in the rest of Jamaica regarding the towns where the black businesses used to be. Are they still there for the most part? And if they're not there, what has replaced them and who's replaced them?
Yeah, but listen. Even the large national black business, I don't think we have any right now. We don't have any large national black business. I mean, we remember a banker, what's his name? He had to give it up. Capital Merchant or something like that. One of them.
Delroy Lindsay?
No, not him. He was long before. He was world class banker.
Okay.
But there was a black-owned financial, I think it's Capital Merchant. I don't remember. His name slipped me right now, and that's no more. So the large one them gone, and the small one them are
gone.
Eroded.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke. I mean, we're seeing this unfolding before our eyes. And the difference between the African, the black-owned businesses and the Chinese businesses in Jamaica is that the black-owned businesses, because of the relationship with the community and the business, you could get a little credit.
Yes.
The relationship was different. Even down to your change. With the Chinese businesses, it's totally different, Not only that, we're seeing in Africa, and this is a very, very real situation in Africa, where, the radios and the shoes and the plastics and
gadgets
are coming in, but they're not necessarily at high standards,
Yeah, because more mass production kind of thing, and, not really the high quality. But that is why when you have like the knowledge-based societies that are emerging in some of the African countries that are doing their thing, we have to highlight it too,
True. Yes.
I mean, because you have some knowledge-based societies.
Yeah, we see
coming up.
Yeah, like who? What we've seen in Ghana, and we're seeing a bit of that in Ghana.
Yes. And even one of the Rwanda, I think there's something happening in Rwanda too.
Yeah, Rwanda is an enigma, because Rwanda is turning out to be maroon-like in terms of the treaties that it's signing with others to sell out others.
Well, I mean, I know, but I know that they're. I mean, in terms of what is happening with the new generation of kids coming up.
Yeah.
I mean,
in terms of using the mobile technology and the convergence of the technology.
I know how kids are with technology.
And they have said it. They have said it. That part of a lot of the young people have said that part of what they want to see in terms of what their responsibility is to the continent of Africa and even the African diaspora is connectivity. Is how to connect to change. And so it's a very good point you've made.
Yes. That's why I said. I mean, it come back to in our opening conversation when we were speaking about what you think will happen. I think these are the things that are showing that maybe another 100 years, so might take back full control, you know.
Gradually.
Yeah,
China did it.
Yeah.
China did it, and I was reading this morning from the commitment that China made to itself in terms of rebuilding the society, rebuilding the economy. That one of the things they said was to observe calmly, don't make no noise about it, don't identify yourself as a leader, do what you're doing, don't let people know what your capabilities are, do what you're doing silently and quietly, so that while China was having this cultural revolution, they had withdrawn themselves from the world, literally, from the globe, and just went inwards. So it was like an introverted kind of situation where you're turning now and look at yourself and come out back like 2 decades after and just go, conquering on to conquer.
Yeah, like what is seen in Jamaica now.
What is that now? With them coming into Jamaica now? Yes, so Jamaica is part of a conquering. But this didn't happen overnight.
No, definitely.
They went inside and reflected, and it was a commitment to themselves that this is how they would deal with it. That it wouldn't be about multiculturalism. Here in Jamaica, it is about multiculturalism. And it is a very few who are pushing multiculturalism on us, while we have not yet even stopped to define who we are to ourselves. They're telling us about multiculturalism.
Out of many, we are one.
Thank you very much, Miss. You're performing on Sunday.
All right.
Molly Marcus Messiah Garvey's poem. And also your own poetry.
Yeah, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Roger. What the African name again?
Rastafrican.
Rastafrican. Why we concrete asphalt. That's African.
We lose our royal connection. When we disconnect ourselves from Africa, we cease to be a world people. Without the African connection, we are a disjointed people, begging for the entry into somebody else's house.
All right. It's the sound of Profi, and of course they'll be on the grounds here for the tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey come Sunday, August 17, which is next Sunday. Once again, there will be a bus leaving the LOJ Shopping Center in Spanish Town on Sunday. That's next Sunday. The person to call is Juliet Dunbar, and the number is 577-3586. or 544-6351. That's 577-3586 or 544-6351. There's also a bus leaving Old Harbour at the Almond Tree beside the police station. Bus will be leaving Old Harbour at the Almond Tree beside the police station. That's next week, Sunday. The number to call is Dr. Upton Blake. Dr. Upton Blake at 799-1846. That's 799-1846. If you have a bus leaving from any part of Jamaica to the tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey next week, Sunday, we ask you to send that information in so we can share that with our listeners. Hey, let us say good morning to Sergeant Neil Brown. Good morning, Sergeant Neil Brown. The Interschools Brigade, the cadets who were in the studio, wanted me to send a special shout out to you this morning, Sergeant Neil Brown, coming from the cadets and also from ourselves here at IRFM. Hey, on the Marcus Garvey, Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey celebrations, you heard Kashima announcing that there'll also be at the end performances, and performances by Aisha Bell, Grim Reaper, you've been hearing from him. Also, Mackie Conscious, Bunga Herman, Rasta Kura, Prophecy, Keznamdi, Chesedek, Nature, Kalisa, Hezron, Ibamar, Teflon, Bushman, Brother Desmond, a.k.a. Ninja Man, and so many others will be there. Michael Fabulous, Danai, Berry, KKI, we said that, Aaron Silk. All right, so many others will be performing live on stage at the event. That's later on in the evening. In the mid-morning to afternoon, we'll be having performances from Lakatko, from Benaya Bingi, from the Bakari Folk Singers, and also the poetry of Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey. In between all of that, the guest speaker, civil rights activist, scholar, author, professor, emeritus at the San Francisco State University, Professor Obati Shaka, will be delivering the keynote address come next week, Sunday. And of course, the theme is breaking the shackles of mental. We were telling you that our brother has died, Brother Patrick Beckford, and once again our condolences to his family, to the family members, immediate family, his wife Catherine, and to his friends, his very close friends, including Jerry Small, Bongo Jerry, who brought this to our attention. We didn't even know that he had fallen. But condolences to the family, to the members of the 12 tribes of Israel, to Bridget and the others, condolences. Today is the funeral service for Becky Isachar, Patrick Beckford. It starts at 12 noon. There will be a tribute at Kingston College, North Street, between 12 and 2. A tribute at Kingston College, and the funeral service is at 2. Then there'll be interment at Meadow Rest. There'll also be a gathering after the interment, and this gathering will be at the Ashanti Restaurant on Brimmer Avenue. Ashanti Restaurant on Brimmer Avenue. And the 12 tribe members meeting will be delayed by 2 hours to facilitate the gathering after the funeral. So once again, the funeral service for our brother Patrick Beckford. At 12 o'clock today, there will be a tribute at the Kingston College, North Street, between 12 and 2. And then also at 2 o'clock, it will be the funeral service. There will be an interment at the Meadowrest and a gathering at Ashanti Restaurant on Brimmer Avenue. And once again, the 12 tribe members meeting will be delayed by 2 hours to facilitate the gathering after the funeral. And the background to that, as we understand it, is that he was seen with a ganja spliff by the police. He was taken to the police station and placed in lockup. Everything else from there is, wow. We understand that he should have been given bail, was not necessarily given bail at the time that his friend went to do that. And we also understand that in short order, he was taken to the hospital and from there died. His attorney, well, the attorney for the family, is Miguel Lorne. He's acting on their behalf in this matter. My brother Miguel Lorne joins me on the phone lines. Miguel, this is a controversial one. This is also confusing, but I know as the attorney that you've been looking at this very closely.
Yes, greetings and blessings.
Greetings.
Very closely. I was down by the park and down by the river.
Mm-hmm.
So, the only drawback this morning is that I wasn't here in the early part of your program. But we give thanks.
Yes.
No, it's very sad. And, what hurts us? You remember last year, the latter part of last year, when we were talking about that young man, O'Shane Dottin, the young man that was killed at the Darling Street police station, when he was arrested by the Coronation Market for a spliff, taken over the station and was beaten. We had the incident a couple of years ago of Relva Hardware, when the policeman looked at him and said, "Dread, you're dead," and shot him. Again, it was over a spliff. And so this must be at the blame now of not just the police that was on duty at the station, because whether they charge other prisoners or not, they are ultimately responsible. They are culpable, negligent, and if they didn't hit him, and they allowed other prisoners to hit him, which is a story that the family doesn't buy,
Yes.
and so on. Because when they saw him, when the mother and sister went to the hospital and saw him, what was written on the documents at the hospital was that he fell off a bed, and they asked the doctor and said, "Doctor, are those injuries consistent with somebody falling off a bed?" And the doctor said, "No, So we hear one story at the station that the inmates, other fellow inmates who beat him. We hear another story at the hospital from the police that he fell off a bed and so on. But the long and short of it is that this is not just the responsibility of the police that was there, but it must be the responsibility of a government, it must be the responsibility of a prime minister, a minister of justice, an attorney general, all of whom is culpable on the basis that they have been dragging their feet with this whole ganja situation. They have been bowing to the United States. They have been doing all sorts of machinations to please their so-called international partners, and they are all responsible now at a time like this, that a man has been killed, at a time when we're celebrating so-called independence, so-called emancipation, and this is the result of this celebration, that a young man, 31 years old, has lost his life simply because he said that he did not like that particular policewoman.
And some said simply because he had a ganja spliff.
Yes.
Brother Miguel, one of the things, and I've been watching the social media and see how people have been reacting and responding to this, and there is a trend and a train of thought out there where people are saying, yes, we're saying that he had a ganja spliff, but that it also goes to a bigger picture of what happens with poor black people when they're taken into police custody, when they're locked up in Jamaica, and that there's also that wider issue to be dealt with.
You're absolutely correct. Youths are locked up for ganja spliff, for other alleged incidents on a regular basis throughout Jamaica, and so on. I know of youths that are locked up for spliff for 1 week, for 2 weeks. I can't think of 2 lawyers that probably have more cases than I have against the government of Jamaica. I file a lot of lawsuits, and most of these matters, they settle out of court. Mm-hmm. The going rate now is that when you lock up a man, they are willing to offer you $50,000 for each day that he has been locked up.
Oh.
Yes, that is the matters. But the problem is that even when it is settled, even when the court makes an order, you don't get the payment until a year or 2 after. Mm-hmm. That is how bad it is now, you know. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of situations like this, and you're quite correct. O'Shane Dutton is a little black youth, having him stall in the Coronation Market area. Real Hardware is a humble little dread. Mm-hmm. Lots of black people are taken up, locked up. It's a regular thing. Mm-hmm. And it's not sufficient just to sue. A lot of these youths do not pursue their rights in terms of suing the Attorney General who acts on behalf of the government and the police. A lot of them just can't bother, fed up, because the whole thing takes long. You're right, and years pass, and a lot of the youths, I mean, when you start out, when the thing is hot, after a while they lose interest, they move from that address, you can't locate them again, and so on. But in a case like this, it shouldn't be we going after the government. It should be the government going after the family and says, look, a harm has been done. We are in pursuit of trying to see what can be done. Not only in this situation. If something was done in the O'Shane Dutton at Garland Street, then these other situations would not have happened.
That's a point.
You're quite correct. How black humble youths are treated at police station. That has to be addressed in a serious manner now.
Yes, and we remember also the brother here in St. Anne, Elder, who was killed because he had a ganja spliff. You know, the question then is, as we focus and look at this unjust justice system, because I think this is where the crux of the matter lies. I remember, Brother Miguel, that there was a case of a politician, which was just recently, it was in the news, we can call the names because it was in the news, but I'm choosing not to, whose son was, it was reported, was caught with a ganja spliff, or possibly a bit more than that. And that came up in the news, the case was in court and so on. I have been asking every month since that, and it's about 2 years now, if not a year and a half. What has happened to that case? Here you have some a different shade of brown in the politician's son who was caught with it. But we hear nothing. I mean, that person wasn't taken into lockup and beaten to death. So I'm thinking that we have a problem of color, we have a problem of class, we have a problem of a police force and a society that looks at itself, hates itself to the point that we are now turning on ourselves. And simple things, because it seems to me as this is how the police force is trained. Like a young man with a ganja spliff, you criminalize him even before you understand him.
Even before you bring him to court. If you're going to offer him bail, that means you're thinking about charging him and so on. So even before you leave it to a court to decide on the matter, you have become judge, jury, executioner, punisher, everything already. And although you mentioned class and certain aspects, a racial aspect is involved. The racial aspect from the point of view that these officers, these people are acting on behalf of another race.
Yes.
They are the house niggers. They are the ones that when Bakra Masa said, give him 10 lashes, they say, no, give him 20. It seriously has race implications. The police force is acting on behalf of a colonial system. They were set up to suppress anything that rebel, anything that resists, anything that speak out. And this is why anybody that say, well, I mean, I like you, or this or that, or if they call you Babylon, or things of that nature, you feel you must retaliate in that manner. And until we get rid of that old colonial structure and that colonial system, which the Honorable Marcus Garvey speaks vehemently about, you're going to find this thing continuously occurring.
And it takes us also to the research done, a seminal piece of research done by Professor Hicklin about issues to deal with power. And that, there is a mental problem that Jamaicans have lots of Jamaicans have in terms of mental illnesses we're talking about. And part of this points to the issue of power. Because we saw that power play. If it is that this is how things unfolded in the police station, the young man say, I don't like you. The police officer says, well, I'm going to show you who has the power.
Yes, and I'm going to keep you back. Don't bother with the bill.
Right.
And told the man to come back at 5 o'clock.
So this is where we see the power play.
Went back at 3 o'clock. Little after 3. And he's told that the man is at the hospital. When the family went to the hospital, they could not recognize him, Somebody had to show a mother and say, this is the person, She couldn't recognize. His face was so badly beaten. This is murder of most foul.
Most foul. So Miguel, what as the attorney representing, acting on behalf of the parents now, what can you tell us about where you're going with this, as much as you can say, and what you expect?
We have been told that there should be the 2 men that have been arrested will be taken to court on Wednesday. We will naturally be there. We want to see the statements that will come up against these 2 men. And so on. We ourselves, we would hope that these 2 men get attorneys so that at some point we could see their defense. And it is important of these 2 brothers that have been arrested because at least they will give us an idea of what went on inside the station. We want to hear outside of the police what went on behind the scenes because the citizens did not hear that part now. So it will be interesting to hear what these 2 brothers who have been arrested say as to what went on inside there. And also to emphasize that whatever happens, the government is responsible for this death. The government will have to take full responsibility. Whether they were killed by the police, whether they were killed by inmates, whether he was killed by... The government must take full responsibility. Then this ain't going to be like a 9-day wonder.
So that at the end of the day, you have, as the attorney, you're saying you're putting the government on notice that this is their responsibility.
Oh, yes,
that it goes
absolutely.
beyond the police officer, the police officers in the station. What at the time? What then? How do you propose to do this, Miguel? If you can say, how would it be?
Well, like I said, I'm very much interested in the statements that will come before the court in terms of the allegations against the 2 persons that have been charged. That will give us a bearing. Somehow we can read into that. And like I said, what their defense is will also have a bearing on the matter.
Okay.
And so on.
Too many
and so forth. So Initially, that is it.
Okay.
So based along those lines, we will get to the ultimate truth of it. But I cannot see how the government can escape responsibility. I should also point out that our National Ganja Association, the Future Growers Association, we had a meeting yesterday, and we are issuing a statement on the matter, and we are calling on the government to declare an amnesty now for the arresting of spliffs. In light of the government's Mark Golding statement that they plan to move towards decriminalization and other reform of the law, we are saying in the meantime, whilst you drag your feet on that, we are calling for an amnesty. We have seen gun amnesty in this country, and a gun is by far more dangerous than a spliff. Spliff is dangerous. So we are calling on the government that between now until the law is reformed, that you have an amnesty not to lock up persons for a ganja, for any ganja less than a pound. So that is what came out of the meeting yesterday.
Okay. So much more to unfold as we go into the week ahead. Thank you very much, Miguel Lone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and helping to shed some light on this situation.
Keep up the good work.
You too, brother. All right. Legalizing or decriminalizing ganja, and many begin to sink their hooks into the commercialization, into making money from ganja. A group and a petition had gone out, led by Barbara Blake Hanna, which was calling on the government, understanding that things like these would still happen. The petition had called on the government of Jamaica to immediately address this very same issue of the criminalization of youths, young people, Jamaicans generally, who were caught with a ganja spliff, and those who were already in jail for possession of a ganja spliff. Very prophetic, that petition that was sent out under the leadership of Barbara Blake. Justice system, a system that sees color very well, that sees class very well. It's not blind. 20/20 vision when it comes to color, 20/20 vision when it comes to class. 20/20 vision, I'm telling you, this unjust justice system. Monday, on the 127th anniversary of Morlamu Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Liberty Hall will be hosting the annual Marcus Messiah Garvey lecture. Professor Hill will present the lecture on the topic Marcus Garvey and the Fallen Angel. Marcus Garvey and the Fallen Angel. That's going to be at Liberty Hall, August 17, at 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. From 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the newly furbished Garvey Great Hall at Liberty Hall. Professor Robert Hill presenting the lecture on the topic Marcus Garvey and the Fallen Angel. Yes, I'm fighting for my right. Marcus Garvey, the Centennial Traveling Exhibition, will also be on show at the event. The exhibition was assembled in 1987 to mark the 100th anniversary of Marcus Garvey's birth in St. Anne. It was assembled by the Schomburg Center in collaboration with the Marcus Garvey and UNIA Papers Project at the University of Columbia. It's the Poetry Festival, and I'm not seeing any information on that, Yasa, so if we could get some information quickly, that the Poetry Festival is on today. I think it's at the Louis Bennett Garden Theatre. All right, if we could get some information on that. That is on today. August 10 is a Poetry Festival in Kingston. Wincy says on Twitter, arresting youths for spliff is used to prop up the police statistics. We're just statistics to them. On Reporter says, as youths who smoke ganja, I'm totally shocked. I notice police women are so wicked these days, he says. It's like they don't have sons. And he says that's why we are not independent. If police have a right to beat us to death because the youth say don't like them. Well, they have said that it's not the police. They've said that he was attacked and beaten in his cell by inmates, and they have arrested 2 of those inmates already. We've heard many challenges to that. Daron Archer on Twitter says, Jamaica, the Chinatown, just wait till the police officers finish learning their Chinese language. Da, 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 dee. He wrote that, actually. Yeah, it's a true thing. But wait until them come with their own security. Because in Ghana, they provide their own security. Have you seen them in Ghana? They have long guns. A lot of the China and Africa guarding the gold mines, especially in China, in Ghana. And a lot of these gold mines are being leased out for 99 years to China by Ghana and so on. So in parts of West Africa, they do have their own security. And if you go up on the land, the gold mines, they will shoot at you. We have seen it. It is not a lie. Evil, giving away our lands to foreigners under the same lifetime, calling our people squatters. At Mosefo, we're seeing you on Twitter. Thank you very much for your comments. Dre, hashtag Sativa Food Farm. Breaking. Okay, thank you very much. Jason Walker says, we as African people need to use the resources of the system and create our Marcus Garvey Institute in Jamaica. Janice Smallwood says, would have more listenership. RFM would have more listenership here and abroad if a subscription was removed. The only station that requires a subscription. Did you hear that, IT and others? Yes, we do get that.
I had a heart once, but the world took it from me. From ever since, I've been grim reaper, that is.
Ars Winston says, are you a Rasta? There are 3,000 level classes on Rasta at FIU. So I know, because we have a way here in Jamaica to, we're seeking reparations from Britain, but we won't pay reparations for the damage done in Tivoli, for the damage done at Coral Gardens, for the damage done at Pinnacle. And so we must look in before we look out, even while we support the reparations movement. So we have a tendency to do this. We're asking for pardon for the U.S. government to pardon Molimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey and to expunge the records. I don't know if we have done that here in Jamaica. Have we? Can somebody tell me? But in any case, I want to leave you with the words of a Zapatista leader. They said, why do we have to be pardoned? What are we going to be pardoned for? Of not dying of hunger? Of not being silent in our misery, of not humbly accepting our historic role of being the despised and the outcast, of having demonstrated to the rest of the country and the entire world that human dignity still lives, even among some of the world's poorest peoples. What are we going to be pardoned for? Who must ask a pardon and who can grant it? And these are words that I live by. Who must ask a pardon? And who can grant it? You can't pardon me. You can't pardon Marcus Garvey. You must ask for pardon, and you must apologize, and you must repair the damage. We're going to leave it there. All right, think about these things. See you next week.
Yeah, man, this is Clive, a.k.a. Chris Zogo, One, you can give me a minute to make a talk to your listeners, Yeah, man, this, I talk to Muta listeners from Jamaica, US, Britain, and the world, especially the one them with on YouTube and BS and Roman channel. For over 20 years, Muta, I highlight problem them and I get solution. But, I feel black people, but Muta alone can't do it alone, But all we do, as them listening, we do, we talk and we complain amongst ourselves and pass blame and we the government, white man, rich man, and Jah and Jesus to solve them. Black people, if you know, say, and a responsibility, so other people solve them problem, If you know, say, the man we have been put by his neck, now take it off and let you lick it off and pump him in the face and step in a thing short. Government has do good, because you see them a drive Pajero, and the regular artists, them alright, because them don't make it. And you see them a pop champagne, flat BMW, and a be a big mansion, but, them not be no factory for employee. The problem that I face working and poor class don't affect them. I can't believe how fool on be, they wait for same people who cause the problem to fix it. We complain about foreigner buy up Jamaica, but instead, we buy up Jamaica, we buy up foreign goods. You know when a thing said then get the money from. I see money when you buy them goods then use back and come buy up Jamaica to use against you. We complain about Monsanto, but we shop at the supermarket all the time. And we don't even try to create our own supermarket that we sell our own organic food. So we leave it up to them to solve our problem with them create. Marcus Garvey said, if we can't do what other races do, we don't deserve to die. And that is exactly what happened to me right now. If you can't own the wholesale like the China man, you don't deserve to stay poor and jobless. If you can't own the multinational like the white man, you don't stay at the bottom of the political and economic system and beg IMF. If you can't own the big farm like Monsanto, you deserve to die from cancer and death of famine. Muta give you no solution to the problem. But Muta, you alone don't have the money to solve a big problem, yeah. So if we put the money together, we can create the big man, big corporation, or big business that will represent our interests and agenda to work to solve our problem. I say, me don't say already, if 1,000 a Muta listener put $1,000 US, that's $1 million US, 100 million Jamaica can set a foundation, start a business. We are going to invest in building and expanding black business like farm, supermarket, car creator, transportation, etc., which will provide wealth and jobs amongst our own by ourselves. Talking and complaining is good, because they highlight the problem. But it's time to build business and structure to solve the problem that we complain about so much. Every race have them structures set up. That is why you can see Chinese come from China, set up shop, and start it out with all Chinese need. All a black man know to do is just be a buyer. You can't even blame the Chinese, because they're not doing it for yourself anyways. My solution, I know the be all and all, but it's one thing that is in your power to do and can create a system that will outlast us all alive now, Muta is the only man in Jamaica I feel that is trustworthy. That is why I'm willing to invest $1,000 US in him to set up a business to build our system. There must be at least 1,000 of him listeners who believe in real self-reliance. If not, I guess black Jamaican is doomed to want to be beggars. $1,000, I don't know, why? Because Jamaicans spend more than that on ganja, liquor, bleaching cream, clothes and car and big house, etc. Overconsumption. If you don't have 1,000, then can't get 10 people to join you as one then. So I want all the serious Muta listeners them to email muta@irfm.net. Call up and tell them say, you're ready to invest in him to build your phone system. So that me want to the people in Muta.
Blessed man, give thanks. That sounds serious. That sounds very, very serious.